Welcome to the Parrot Podcast with your host, Sandra, where we talk about all things parrots.
And when it comes to like a flock, I know that it's, parrots are flock animals, birds are flock animals. In the wild, we see them in flocks, and I know that that's something that you prioritize. Every time you bring a new bird into the flock, what are the steps that you take to introduce them to the flock? And have you ever had a situation where like a new bird didn't get along with the flock?
Yeah, so initially, I'm lucky with my aviaries. I have three large aviaries that are all side by side, but still mesh panels. So they can see each other and talk to one another. So every time, I get a new bird, I'll take them to the vet first. They'll get a vet clearance. I'll keep them in quarantine in the house and bond with them a little bit, just so they get to know me, I get to know them. And then I will, integrate them outside and pop them in a side-by-side aviary with whoever I want to put them with. Okay. And then just monitor their behavior. If they don't really show any interest in each other, then I'll usually just try and put them together probably in the next 3 days or so. And then, just watching, monitoring. I haven't had any issues of not anyone really liking each other. My macaws are a bit temperamental, and they still are a little bit, because I only got Rhea in February, my female macaw, and she's a 4-year-old macaw, and she was housed basically by herself for 4 years. So when she had to share an aviary with another 2 macaws, she's like, no, I'm the boss around.
Get your own aviary.
Yeah, literally. But they're all in really big aviaries. So if they want to get away, they just fly to the other side of the aviary. And if that bird really wants to seek that other bird, which they don't really, or if it flies away, then they're just like, oh, okay, cool. But other than that, it's funny because the Amazon parrots, because I got 5 Amazon parrots together, and I get a lot of messages being like, how do you have 5 Amazon parrots housed together? I can't even house one Amazon parrot with my other Amazon parrot because they want to kill each other. And I'm like, I don't really know what I did, but it just works. Not really sure.
I don't know. I think that each parrot also has their own personality, and they're individuals. And I asked this question because I think it's something that people are usually concerned about when growing their flock, because you don't know if the birds will get along. And I hear so many stories of the birds hate each other. They're always fighting, or they have to have separate out of the cage time because they just really don't get along. And it's a beautiful thing when they do get along and you can have a flock and they all jive together. But there's always that risk that they're not going to like each other. And so because you have so many different flocks, I thought this is a great question for you.
Yeah. Well, I guess I would always recommend doing it sooner rather than later, because the sooner you can expose them to that socialization element, then they're not really going to know any different. We do see it a lot over here in red-tailed black cockatoos. When you have an imprint male red-tailed black cockatoo for an extended period of time, he will never integrate with another species, or another red-tail. They end up killing the female, or killing other species of bird, because they just don't know how to socialize, and they can become really, really, really aggressive, which is scary. So that's why I got Rambo a female pretty soon, because he was showing those, behavioral problems where he was sitting on the shoulder and he wanted to mate me, and he just loved humans so much that it wasn't a healthy relationship that he had with me. So, and I was recognize that, and I got him a female because and I always think as well, I wanted to prioritize that, because I always think in the back of my mind, if I'm not around or something would ever happen to me and Rambo was given to a sanctuary or something like that, God forbid that he wasn't socialized enough to be put into a flock, and then he just has to sit there and be by himself for 80 years or whatever. So I always like to have that in the back of my mind when I'm thinking about, the future of our parrots. But it is a tough one. Like you said, they're all so individual, and it is hard sometimes to integrate them. And I guess in captivity, we can never provide what they would naturally do in the wild. If they're not compatible in the wild, they just fly off and have this endless amount of space to get away from each other. But if we're forcing them together, sometimes it just doesn't work. But put a human in the mix as well, which changes the bird's behavior completely as well. And it's what's the bird thinking?